One, two, three, testing. Hi.
That sounds perfect.
Okay, sweet.
State your name for the record. I'm just kidding.
It's hella long. It's hella long. It's like five names. Yeah.
And what is your name?
Mary June Grace Vita Dandan. And my June has no H. My legal one.
Has no H.
Yeah, it's just Jun.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And where were you born?
I was born in the Cavite, Cavite, Philippines. So it's like 40 minutes away from Manila, like roughly.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, it could be totally different, but it's definitely a little bit southwest of Manila. Yeah.
And when is your birthday?
September 30th, 1989.
And when did you move over to the United States?
I moved here when I was turning 7 and this was 1996. But I've been told I always mix up like 1995, 1996, because I always forget.
Right.
But it had to have been 1996 because I was turning 7. But yeah.
And when did you first start painting? Or drawing?
Yeah, I remember drawing. I mean, I remember like loving drawing ever since I was a kid, like literally in the Philippines, because they would always hold these these little contests in class, and my mom was also creative, so I just kind of loved doing that because it was just like fun. It was like a me thing.
And creating, like you said, like what was there? Even back then, when you first started creating, was it just about it being fun? Or was there another purpose?
I think when I was a kid, it was just fun. Like, I liked the idea that I was making something. I grew up with, like, a mom that made things all the time, like, whether it was food or, like, projects for us or little things in the house. So I think I just love the idea of like, seeing color or seeing, like, line work on a page or, like, because the change that happened with me using it more as an expressive tool was when I got here from the Philippines, because it was like it was harder to make friends with the accent that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I ended up subconsciously, I didn't realize I was doing this. I just was like nervous about talking, so I would just draw a lot, like in elementary school. And then it wasn't until like this kid came up to me in, like, I went to Nye Elementary. So this is like Division Street, like in like partial suburban, like San Diego. So then, like, the elementary school that I was at, I was just sitting on the lawn, and I remember drawing birds and drawing suns and moons, and then a kid came up to me, and like then they became my friend because they liked what I was doing. So then that was like the first memory I had of it, like actually like being used as something and not just for me. So.
And was your mother an artist, or is she an artist?
It's weird because she's not an artist, but then she does creative stuff.
Why did she do creative stuff? Did she ever talk about that?
I think it's weird because her and I are quite different, but internally I think we're the same. So she just loved, like, she grew up owning a restaurant with her mom and her family. And so that also subsequented, like, the idea that, you know, if I had stayed in the Philippines, we would probably be helping at the restaurant also. And she was always really good with her hands as far as cooking, as far as like making crafts, and like anytime it was a holiday, she was always like involved, and she's still involved now, like extremely. Like, and then I think too, with just that burst of like wanting, she always liked making stuff, and I don't know, like I think the older that I got, it occurred to me, or it was more clear, I think too, because her and I are kind of similar, where we are very much to ourselves most times, but we feel a lot. So I think I understood that as an adult. So now, looking back at why she made things when she was like in her like 30s, when we were kids, I think I sort of see that in her. So I think that was a sort of similarity on her creativeness and mine. So
Was
yeah.
it passed on to you?
Her side of the family actually had the painters. So my two grandparents were painters. One was by marriage, and one was actually my blood relative. Um, they were both impressionist painters in the Philippines, which I actually didn't feel, or I didn't discover until I was here. Both of them ended up living here, and I was exposed to their art, but I didn't really understand yet that I would be influenced by it. I just loved that they liked what I liked, and I think that was like my initial connection with her side of the family doing art and being creative. So I think also she got it from that exact thing. So yeah.
But how do you feel when you look at their paintings?
Yeah.
You know, like, is there any? Because are they still alive?
So they're not alive anymore. So when I look, I remember. I swear to God. Sorry, is it okay to cuss? Okay. I swear to God, I remember when I think I was like before 10 and before 15, we visited the same grandparents, the one that's related to me by blood. And I always loved looking at the paintings that he hung of his own art, like against the upstairs. And then like, I remember going into like his old bedroom, and there was like paintings of generals. Like, so he was an impressionist painter, but also he did portraits. And I think when I saw both my other grandparent that was from the marriage side, I think I just loved the idea of like, I know that I might not paint like them, but I literally told myself like, there's something here, and I'm gonna just, I'm just gonna try to figure out if like why they didn't become like full-time painters, or like why are these beautiful paintings just in a house? Like so that was sort of my feeling as I got older, and also as they passed. Like when I had to attend their funerals, it was like, my parents always talk about this. It was weird that it was more hurtful to me, or more painful to me, that they were gone, but I wasn't even that close to them. But I think every time I see their work, I feel way closer to them that I feel like their kids might, and not in like a bad way. I just feel like there's the quiet relationship that all artists have the moment you see that you do art. I think there's like a quiet bridge that you sort of make. And they didn't know that I would do this, because they just knew me as Marissa's daughter, and she likes to draw. And so I think looking at their work now, even as an adult, it's meaningful, because that's what they chose to like sort of leave for their kids, for so like my uncles, and and even in their funerals, their art was there, like, so yeah.
And like, dealing with the past and everything like that, do you feel like you carry a lot of memories with you?
Yeah, 100%. I think in order for me to even make the girls that I do, it requires a lot of like tapping into everything I remember, especially because I feel like I've sort of relished in this idea that the art that I do, it was only for me, and like a coping mechanism of everything I've ever done or ever experienced, especially for someone who has a hard time talking about, or had a hard time talking about, the past with people that I knew wouldn't understand. I use that sort of idea where, like, since art is my safe place, why is it my safe place? And it's where all of my shitty memories can go, where no one can really judge those shitty memories, but I don't have to live with them in such a like compressed, like murky way. So it became like a breath. Like, we're making sure that I kept those memories alive. Yeah.
So memories are important to you.
100%. Yeah.
And what is a memory? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is a memory? What is that?
So memories for me, I feel like memories for me can be like so many things. Like, it could literally be one, your memory of the feeling that someone left with you, or like how this experience made you feel. It could also be like emotionally, And then the second one could literally be like the physical feeling of that moment. And then the other thing, obviously, as typical as it sounds, it's the mentality, like what now is ingrained because of what happened. And so it's funny that like I base the work on memories, but I what do you call it? I break them apart as if they're not real. Like I think it's to sort of bind that like emotional, physical, and mental feeling of like one moment into something that's a little bit more tolerable, because a lot of the stuff is hard.
But are you trying to give memory power, or are you trying to take the power out of the memory?
Both. Yeah. It's almost like, oh my gosh, this is such a good question. Um I think I know I think it starts too with like acknowledging that I am extremely sensitive and extremely porous. That if I don't use the memory in the thing that helps me cope with that memory, then it will win. And it's that trauma wins. Like I will never get over something. I will never see the beautiful side of what had happened. And I think like really accepting what had happened, or anything that has happened to me, whether it is good or whether it's really shitty, I think then I'm in control, like through the girls. And therefore it's like I'm using it, but also it's turning into something like a positive, like now I have a positive relationship to the happening pretty much, or to something that is so sad.
And you mentioned the girls. Are they a part of your memories?
Yeah, so I feel like the girls have always acted as if like they were the vase of the feeling. Like they carried the physical aspect of what something feels like. I feel like sometimes my girls are like screaming, and then sometimes they look very porcelain and at peace, but I sort of utilize them as the external part of a memory, and then I allow myself to sort of get deeper into them. Therefore, that's kind of where the plant comes, like all the different plants that mean a certain thing. All of the houses and the bridges and the architecture sort of represent like the physical part of a memory, like building, almost like almost like when the memory is so hard to bear, it feels like it's like crashing you down. It feels like it's breaking you apart. But then when I draw them out, it feels like I'm sort of building myself up with it. Like it's almost like I'm reconstructing or like building a building based on what that felt like to be sort of broken by that emotion. So I love that the girls act in the way where, or like when I draw them, because I always tell people, they tell me what to do. I just have a pencil in my hand or paint. But to me, they sort of tell me what things look like on the outside. And then they, like when I draw them, I sort of create these heavier subjects in them, like their face, parts of the neck, and then how far like the shoulders and the bust can go. And I think that when I think about the girls, I feel like they always tell me like, okay, this is how much we can carry. This is like the weight of the memories that we are able to, carry. Like this is the container. I'm the container. So go. Like tell me what the fuck this is now. like this is the you can latch onto this part, you can latch onto this part. This is going to be really thin. We can only carry this much. So a lot of making the girls is constant internal reflection of what can we carry as a human, what can I carry as a person, in diving into this specific moment in time. Because I know a lot of those memories that I have to deal with are traumatizing, but they don't have to feel so painful. And so they help me do that. And yeah.
And what does it take, I mean, to every time to sit down and you have to kind of wait for the girls to talk to you, right? To lead you. So what does it take to get into that mind state?
Remembering that I'm human is first. I think I think for me, I've gotten into this cycle where I I've gotten into this cycle where they just feel so natural that it's almost hard to break down the steps that I take, because it's literally like it literally feels like I'm just breathing, like I'm walking into a room and I'm just hanging out. That's what it feels like. And I think I've gotten to the point where I also had to understand that in order for the girls to come out naturally, and in order for me to keep doing this, I have to have new memories. I have to be able to look at them and have them be a reminder to me that I can take new issues. I could take new, hopefully not traumatic memories, but new things that might seem like heavier in the heart, or things that are just welcomely happy. Like, I think, I think with art, it allows me to cope with reality, but it also can become obsessively daunting, where you just get so obsessed with making work that you forget to literally experience life, which is what got me to do art. So it's the process for me is literally looking outside, hearing people, and tapping into myself. If, like, let's say if I'm not inspired by the outside world currently, like if things just seem so daunting or seem so bland, then I almost like have over the years, like, created like my memories as like a filing cabinet, almost like archives of everything I've ever seen, whether it was my story or someone else's. I've always just wanted to make sure that I always felt connected to almost all parts of my life, so that I can use them for later. Yeah.
And do the girls, in a way, protect you from memories like affecting you in that way? Like, no matter what, like the girls will filter it through.
Yeah, I think visually it's a representation of like the beautiful side of traumatic stuff. Like death is really painful. Almost dying is really painful, and also learning that you're told that you can't have kids is very painful. So I think like physically and visually, the girls remind me that there is sort of a beautiful side of things that suck, of things that are so terrible. But I think they sort of remind me that the potential that I have to be able to literally, like what I mentioned, to be able to carry more. I can, like, it got me here so I can survive new stuff. So it's almost like an armor. And yeah, like it's almost, she kind of became a safe house for one to feel invincible in any emotional state that I might endure from others or from the world around me. But also, I just realized too that they always feel like they've either survived battle or like in battle, because I subconsciously started creating them with like these headdresses, but they're, all these headdresses are made up of just a symbolic idea of power and authority. And so I think, like, subconsciously, I didn't realize that was what I needed as a person. I needed to feel what the girls felt like after I painted them. Like, I need to remind myself that the girls and I aren't necessarily separate. Because I think there's a point where I started like separating us. I was just like working for them, and not in like a bad way, but I started obsessing with their creation, like, because like every time I made them, I felt like I wasn't there. Like, I felt like I would black out. and then I got to a point where I just, like, I started opening my doors to people and seeing the girls, and then, people that talk to me about the work actually are the ones that helped me realize that, like, or bring me back to earth of like, no, girl, like, you made the girls. Like, it's not just you blacking out painting and like, breathing or something. No, like, it actually took a lot of like diving into those things. Yeah.
They're a conduit.
Yeah.
For you. to bear a lot of.
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you, I mean, how does somebody feel when they look at your paintings? And I know it's hard to get in their head to know what they feel, but how do they express to you how they feel?
I I'm like so baffled at like the love. Like I don't know how to take it in sometimes. And and love meaning like just relationship, like wanting to build a relationship with this thing that I made. And I think I've never really sat down to really think about that. Like I'm always very thankful but I think being thankful is so easy. Like something feels good so you're thankful, but I think people really like seeing their own struggles with like in their lives and feeling like somebody understands them just by looking at this image is not only powerful but it's rare, I think, nowadays, because things move so quickly, and so it's a lot of times it's hard for us to feel everything that we've experienced, to really like sit and soak it up. But I think when paintings come to you, whether it's mine or another person's work, I think it's just so like you can sit with it and you can really analyze like why these colors really mean something to your personal journey. So I'm like just extremely shocked by the amount of relationships that I've seen flourish, whether it's relationships with the girls or just me being reminded that I'm not alone in my journey. Like when I spoke about premature ovarian failure, I remember that was the year where I decided to be open with it and show it through my work. And the love and also just this other like the stories that were coming out of that from other people, like, whether they were crying or whether they just felt like elated that someone felt or someone knew how they were feeling. Like it's such a gift. Yeah.
And the gift, I mean, each day when you sit down, what keeps you what keeps you creating each day? I mean, I know it's new memories as well, but some days, even when you don't feel like it,
Yeah.
What gets you to the paper?
I think so. Like I always feel like I say this like at like anytime I see like a teenager and I know they like art, I always say like, even if you feel like crap, like just draw. And it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be what you think is good. It just has to feel like what you feel like. So I think when I am like feeling, I think for me, I've just always, it's very like, I don't know if the word is linear, but if I don't feel like making something, that almost, or making the girls, that's more of like a comment on, I just need to experience something new, whether it's a new restaurant or seeing a new building or literally getting out of the room and getting out of the studio. Because I do have to ask myself all the time, like, what do I do this for? It's to put down what I feel. It's to put down things that I see out in the world, whether they're, more serious or more light. And I think most times when I don't feel like doing art, a lot of it is because of that. Like I just kind of, everything is fine and everything is just like one note. And that's also okay. That just means like that's my resting time. But then I also have to remember that, like if like I not necessarily I like need to be inspired. I just need to feel. And I think also that is a reminder that I do have only like one life. And so I want to use that to feel different things and to see and observe different stuff. So as nice as it is to have those days where you're just relaxing and just, quote unquote, fine. I think for me, I've always like obsessed with like, I want something to give me spark, whether it's just literally food or like a new thing or tapping into those like memories.
And speaking of memories, do you ever think about maybe like a niece or nephew that hasn't been born yet in your family, kind of discovering your work? You know, like discovering, like going through that same thing that you went through. You know, do
Yeah.
you think about legacy and things like that?
Oh my gosh, I think about that all the time. All the time. And like the reason why I think about that all the time is because I constantly read books about people like not realizing that they're leaving legacies, like old painters, like all they wanted to do was paint. And so like until people discovered how like moving their stuff was, like those are the things I'm sort of like affected by. And and then for me now, like the art that I make is for the idea that like I know I'll be gone one day, and it's also my me coping with that. And so when I think about like my nephews, which like I already have two or three. I have three. I have two nephews, one niece. Um, I think about the other like family members I have. Like I do have a niece right now that is super young, but she's like loves drawing, and she's also figuring out like her place in the art world. But she's only like I think like 12 or like something like that. And I think the the external role that I have aside from doing art for myself and coping with life and all that stuff is like, you know, branching out to show these kids whether they are related to me or not. Um yeah, like this, you know, if you feel upset, take what you love and use it. Like so my knowing that my niece, you know, is now picking up paint and picking up like pencils and stuff, like you know, I want her to know that it's possible to be okay with just that thing that you're holding, whether it's like a paintbrush or pencil. And seeing my very young nephews like being like 5 years old and oh no, 4 years old and like 3 months or 4 months, I think to sit, especially being Filipino, like and being creative like out there and doing this for a living is still rare, you know, with those opportunities for them. But I want them to know that that is possible too, like if they end up doing art is their career, you know, like it's not that rare. Or we can make it not as rare.
And what would you want the legacy of not just the girls, but like your work, your life's work? What would you want that to be?
um I think, well, I guess I know. Um, I think with my paintings, I make so much every day because I feel like they're like diaries to me, that it's almost like I always look at them as like breadcrumbs to like my life until I die. I have this like crazy fear of dying, and not in like a I won't go outside kind of way, but or like I won't like do fun stuff, but it's I think I've just seen it so much from friends that have passed away and like family members that have passed away, and also almost feeling like I was dying on the table, that I feel like the art that I make, like the girls are literally showing me too that like that they kind of remind me my fear of dying, honestly. And Ashley, can I dive into this? Yeah, yeah, it's so the girls to me, if I were to dissect them like generally, so there's always like natural stuff in my work, like flowers and plants and stuff, and it's not because it's pretty. It's when I was young, I was like 7 years old or 8 years old, my aunt passed away from ovarian cancer. And so that, and I had just came from the Philippines within those first like year or 2 years. And I remember like seeing people drop flowers on her, like at the graveside and stuff like that, like during the funeral. And one of the questions I asked myself at that age, and I didn't even know that it was gonna follow me, was I always wondered why I was holding a flower and why we'd put it there. Like, why is it just sort of getting recycled back? Like, why are we doing that? Like, she can't see it, you know. But you know, they always say, oh, it's to show love and to this and this. And then I think that image, though, anytime a grandparent passed away, or anytime a friend passed away, or anytime I always felt like I was getting close to dying, whether it was like an accident, like a car accident, or something like medically happening to me, I just always had that relationship of like the power of like nature. And so with the girls, the natural elements in the girls are sort of like a reminder that nature wins. And it's the legacy, part of the legacy I want to leave is literally like just a reminder to, for me, like it was always like a reminder to allow the natural process of life to happen, because I was so afraid of it, and I still am. And like, you know, I use nature to tell stories, whether it's for commissions or for my own work, but my me holding on to like the nature taking over her, like through her whole being, has always been that, like, no matter what happens, no matter how I'm feeling in that emotion or memory, I will be at peace with the earth again. Like literally just how I saw my aunt and how I saw like family. And it really struck a chord with me more so when I turned 28 and I found out that I had premature ovarian failure, because then that was my direct connection to my aunt who passed away when I came here. And like, just literally it felt like someone, like when I was at the clinic, it literally felt like someone held like, let's say like 20 years in front of me, telling me, you made art for this moment. You made art because this shit sucks. Like, this is terrible. And it's almost, it was literally a clear line of like, oh my gosh, like, not that I knew that this was going to happen, but it was more like art has always saved my life, whether it was from memories of heartache or now. And I think when that was exposed to me, it was almost like, yeah, like my mind like opened up, and I realized I'm here to tell more than just coping stories. It's just stories. I need to tell this stuff. Like, I need to share this stuff, because that's what got me to the girls in the first place. And so I think, you know, the relationships I built with people through the girls and helping them cope has sort of been like part of that understanding of legacy and understanding of, I'm going to leave one day. How do I want to be remembered? And if I could be remembered simply for the girls and not my face, that's powerful enough, because they helped me survive until I died. So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it still red right here?
Yeah, it's red. I know that was a lot.
No. That's literally the purpose. What you just did right there is the purpose of why we do all this. So thank you so much for diving within.
Yeah.
Like, that's really dope to know. Just as a fan of your work, just to kind of have that insight is just really powerful.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you kind of wanted to add?
I think actually to add to that, because it also goes with the whole nephew thing, like like understanding like the premature ovarian failure, then I couldn't have kids. I think that's part of the reason why, like, because I was 28, now I'm like 32, and I think literally I moved back here when that happened. Like, I needed a studio that made me see people, because I was going deeper into myself, and not in like a unhealthy way, but I just felt like whatever I just experienced something fucking huge, that it can't stay in this bedroom of mine. Like, it can't stay in my house. Like, I now have to force myself to to share literally my physical body like with the outside world. And I think because like the fact that that was so linear to my aunt and or like so connected to my aunt, every then you start fearing like, oh my gosh, like am I gonna die at 40 just like her, or like when she was in her 40s or whatever. And then I think that played also in the fact that like I see friends having kids, and I see people that I love and their children that I love, and it's like, how can I feel that without actually having that? And not necessarily the idea of adoption, but how can I actually feel like I'm raising something without actually raising something? And that was when the girls exploded 100%. Because I was like, these are my seeds, and these are the breadcrumbs. It's not a physical human. That will only be me and my, I guess. But I want them to feel real enough where people grow with them and people want to experience life with them. Or I want the girls to be exposed to the world in the same way that like we see kids grow up. And so that pushed me to literally to the point where I'm at now, like doing this, like, as my life is now. I'm just raising my kids and I'm letting people see it. So, yeah.
That is so cool to know. I feel like my mind's just been blown. So
Yeah, it just
that's so cool.
That's been the number one. And I talk about this all the time. Like, yeah.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
I love you guys
That
so
was super
much.
cool. Oh my god, I felt like it was a podcast.
Yeah. I was like down. I was like, let's do it.
Right?
I love.
Save the audio, man, because that was really freaking.
Thanks.
Felt like just so much insight.
Yeah.
Just into everything. So.
And yeah, that's why it's so funny, because when people are in here and they ask me questions about like, when I'm open, it's so hard because I do want to have those like deep conversations with them, but it's so long, like it's
to put all of that into, and I like how at the end you kind of like that diving within part, like that is like the essence of like just hearing that and everything like that, just I know it had an effect on me in the moment. So I just thank you for being vulnerable with us and trusting us, because that, just like I said, as somebody that has your work in our house and everything so like follows you and has such respect for you, just, and I didn't even know, I didn't have any of that insight. It just makes it so much more powerful. It was powerful to begin with, but I cannot tell you, like, I feel like I look at them in like a different way now. Yeah. And it's more powerful. And it's like, so it's just really cool to know that. It's just really, really cool. I mean, but it's, and I, at the same time too, it's like I knew there was, you always know when there's like that seed, like you have so much depth to you. You know what I mean? Like I knew it just by looking at your art. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it went from even what you have at the house. Like there's so many different versions of her.
Yeah. And it's just, but just not even knowing that, the fact that you can see one of your paintings and intune that, you can get the intuition that, oh my gosh, she's creating from a place of truth, and just to know just a little bit, just get like a peek behind it, just know a little bit of what that truth, where that came from. And we don't know the whole picture, like it's a huge mystery. Like even, we think we know why we create, but it's like, there's a huge mystery to it. But just to get a little bit of insight into where the seed was first planted, and to know that you had artists in your family that you looked at, and to know that people are growing, they're going to look at you one day, and that you're leaving a legacy, and that it's being passed on, and that you're using art in this beautiful way, and it's just fucking dope.
Thank you.
It's fucking cool. And we're gonna make a badass video. I promise. It's gonna be like with his visuals. Yeah. And just matching, just with your audio, it's gonna be a really, really cool. Thanks. And thank you for letting us do this.
Oh my gosh, you guys are welcome anytime. It's awesome. And I always say this to people, like it's rare to see fine artists do this on their own anymore, like without digital like creations, without like working for a company. It's like, it's fucking rare. So thank you guys for like showing this stuff.
No, of course. It's like this time, I think with the pandemic and everything, you see a lot of people wanting to pursue it, this and that, but we want to definitely encourage that, but then also know, like we've been interviewing people that have kept their, that have been able to live off their art for 12 years.
Yeah.
It's just, not only does their authenticity that you have, but then there's also the discipline.
Yeah.
part
Oh
of it
my
too.
gosh, so disciplined. It's like you have to.
So, but it's just trying to they're making it less mysterious, so that hopefully more people can do a creative path.
Yeah.
Where it's not, and if, like you said, even if they have a side job or whatever, there's no stigma. There's gonna be a stigma.
Yeah.
But there's also it's a huge blessing to be able to create for a living too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm so thankful for the outside world for even tapping in. I feel like that's what got me here is the complete ability for people to be honest, to relate to them, because I feel like when I write how deep things are sometimes people don't want to feel that. So I think that's them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different, but I mean, it's all part of it though, because even your posts, the pictures and everything, it comes with the meaning behind it. It's it's all part of it. You're expressing. It's not like it's someone else writing it for you. You're expressing that, and then this is the visual part of it. This is the written part of it.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of different. There's a lot of different layers to it. I think so. It's a good.
Thanks. That was so fun. Oh my gosh, I literally was gonna cry too, in a good way. I was like, don't sniffle. You could do this.
And if you want the video, we'll send you the audio after. Just
Yeah.
please, I mean, I thought it was a great conversation. So
Oh
there's a lot there, so you could maybe use it.